Live and preparing. We are now streaming live on Facebook.
Awesome.
Well, welcome everybody. Hey friends, how are you guys today?
Great. How are you?
Awesome. Well, we are Deliberately Fair Housing, discussing deliberately fair housing today. Pretty exciting.
Woohoo.
So we should just be sure that we all introduce ourselves for the audience. For those that may not know us individually, they see us collectively and they see a couple of us more than others. So I'll start. I'm Lori Namazi. I am a broker in Orange County in Southern California, and I'll be moderating today. So let's go Farah next.
Hi, I'm Farah Wilder. I am California Association of Realtors, Chief Equity or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. And I was a realtor before this when Deliberately Fair Housing started in Oakland, California.
Wonderful. Susie, you're up.
I'm Susie Dunkel Soto, a realtor with Keller Williams Realty in Arcadia, and an ally, and one of the founding members of Deliberately Fair Housing.
Thank you. And Janet.
Oh, I am Janet Dorsey. I am the Director of Risk Management for Southern California for Compass. Also one of the original members of Deliberately Fair Housing.
Awesome. And Leon.
I am Leon Townsend of Torrey Homes in Pasadena, one of the founding members of Deliberately Fair Housing, and always happy to be here.
Thank you. And Lisa.
I am Lisa Dunn. I am partner owner with one of the best business partners in the world at Laurel Real Estate Resources, and I am one of the founding members. And Lori?
Thank you. All right. So now you know who we all are. And as some of us have mentioned that they were the founding members, we're all the founding members. And, you know, I'd like to take us back to, oh gosh, almost a year ago. I don't remember if it was in April or in May, but I remember there was a lot going on in the world. And there were a lot of Facebook posts that we were sharing and commenting on, just shocked and disappointed about what was going on in our world. And that extended into our industry. And so I remember there was one post, I don't even remember what the post was, but I remember there was a comment from Leon just saying, we need to do something. And Lisa saying, yeah, what can we do? And somehow behind the scenes that turned into the two of them, and then a third and a fourth and a fifth, and then here we are, 6 of us. So we are the founding members, and I'd just like to have everybody share, and we can go in the same order that we did introductions, just because it might be a little easier, but in your own words, you know, why was this group formed, or why did you want to be a part of this group, or what purpose do you see this group fulfilling? And I'll go last. So we'll start with Farah.
That's a big question, Lori, but I'll do my best.
Tell us why. Why were you here?
I mean, so the why I'm here, there's a lot of reasons. So first of all, you guys are my friends. And so if you said, hey, do you want to hang with me and do stuff? I'd say yes. But then there's another piece of the why, which is, you know, why I do a lot of things around fair housing. I believe in homeownership, and I'm also very aware, you know, just from a young age, you know, from an education, you know, how I got educated, things I learned, you know, in school growing up, that we had these disparities, that there was once legal discrimination, and just, you know, kind of when it bubbles up and seeing it happen over and over again, the only thing that's ever, you know, helped me cope really is to try to do something about it. So the fact that we were doing this and holding space and finding solutions and coming up with them or talking about them or whatever we were doing to kind of advance fair housing was extremely therapeutic for me. But I think for a lot of us who are appalled that whatever is going on in the world around discrimination, disparities, race, is happening. And this is something as real estate industry professionals that we know that we can do.
It's a great reason why you're here, and we're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be
And
here.
so how about Susie?
Gosh, well, I think we all kind of started during a happy hour with some peanut butter whiskey tasting and some
Yes, we did.
and some good stout. But through that, I mean, there is some, common concerns of what was going on. And we first were, during our quarantine, it started with the fair housing disclosure, and really expanding on that. And from there, I think we all kind of felt like we needed to do more. And as we started reading, there were so many books that were coming up. And even though realtors, us currently, we're not part of so much of the problem that had happened, we're still realtors in our industry. And I felt the more we knew, once you know better, you do better. And I felt like, we were so limited that we had to educate and inform. And that's really where I found this group was so important. So much I wasn't aware of, so much of my own unconscious bias that you're just, once you know better, you do better. And that's something that I'm just so proud of this group informing. And, whether you read the book last year, you're just reading it for the first time, you read it next week. It's just understanding where we came from and where we need to go.
So important. Thank you for that. And Janet, how about you?
I think, first off, it was like Farah said, it was the friendships and talking, and of course the peanut butter whiskey introduction. Thank you so much, Lori.
My pleasure.
And having our late afternoon and weekend sessions and coming up with that fair housing, disclosure and strategically timing that so that CAR got it on Juneteenth, a very symbolic and historic day. And then, CAR, of course, acting on that. And the CAR leadership team also making it a priority within the realtor community, and then NARs, and strengthening our commitment and the journey of learning and reading so much stuff. It's been awesome, and it really does help further my own education, even though I think, when I look back, I want to maybe discount some things that have happened to me in the past, but then as you go back and you listen, you sort of assess what might have been going on during those time frames, how much you are actually impacted by discriminatory practices or disparate impact, or what we're calling microaggressions that really are aggressions. Take the micro out of it, it's actually an aggression. And then of course the continued camaraderie. It's lovely to do this with you guys and have us all come along on the journey at the same time.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks, Janet. How about you, Leon?
For me, it was more about, not only the friendships, but, each of these women are women that I respect and have supported me in my journey. And when it came to just coming to this topic, there's very few people in the industry that I would rather do it with. There's, not only do we care and we're learning all at the same time, but we each have that work ethic that drives us to want to do more, want to help more. And I don't know many other people in this industry that can do it like, that the six of us have done. And I don't know if I would want to do it with any other people than the six of us, and, bringing others along with us to learn and to, take this as an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't know if I could ask for any other people to support me in this journey.
Well, thank you for that. I think everyone would agree your laughter makes us all smile, and you put up a lot with 5 other women too. When all of our hours we spend together, you put up with us. So thank you for that. And Lisa, how about you?
Oh, well, this is like the most awesome group of people right here. I can't think of anybody else that I wouldn't want to go out and try to change the world with, because I know all of us kind of are that way. and and it's just been so cool. And I'm going to use the word that Lori and I both hate, and I know Leon just used it, the journey we've been on. And we have been on quite a very interesting journey. And I think the really cool thing is with the pandemic situation being such as it was, and first, well, we had our cocktail hours with our peanut butter whiskey and maybe some silly mustache filters and various other things, but we won't get into that right now. But that we were given an opportunity that if we didn't have the pandemic, if we didn't have these Zoom, get-togethers, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened. And we took an opportunity. We had things happening in this country that we couldn't just sit here silently and not try in our own little corner of the world to make the situation better for not only our industry, which definitely can use some help, but the consumers and the homeowners that are currently homeowners and people that aspire to be homeowners.
Well said. Thank you for that. And by the way, it's Screwball peanut butter whiskey, in case you all want to know.
Yeah, don't mess with the others. It's not good.
So for me, I was the last one to be brought into the group, and I'm really grateful for that because I was really confused at the time. There were so many messages, and I didn't understand a lot of it. I couldn't relate to a lot of it, but I wanted to learn. And like Susie says, when you know more, you do better. And so for me, I found this to be a space where I could listen. And I listened for a long time. I didn't say very much in those early days, if you all remember, because I really needed to listen, because I needed to hear the stories and understand all of the history that I never learned about. And I saw this as a place where we could reach a lot of people, and we could educate, and we could share resources, and we could build a community, one person at a time, of people who just wanted to go out and do good, to do the right thing and make a difference. And I'm a year later, and I still don't know all the right things to say, but I try. And so these people all give me grace for trying, because they know that my heart is with them. My heart is with the mission. And each day we do what we can to spread the word. And so that's why I'm here. And I love all of these people. We have grown so much together in this last year. So with that, so that's kind of the background and why we're all here. Some of you highlighted some of the accomplishments that this group has seen in the last year. Susie mentioned the Fair Housing Discrimination Advisory, and others mentioned the book club. What are some of the other things that you guys want to make sure that people understand that we're doing, and not for our own satisfaction, not to build a list of accomplishments, but what are we putting out there that's making a difference? So whoever wants to speak, go ahead.
I'll go first because I want to talk about the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory. I think that was one of the things that I look at in my career that I could not be prouder to be part of the group who said, we need this. And that we worked together, we thought long and hard, because before this was out there was only one line in the contract, in any contract, discussing fair housing at all. And to see a group come together with the passion to craft something, the outline for, of course, we sent it to the CAR executive staff, but it was a rough outline and they fleshed it out to the document that it was. But every time I see that form, my clients probably think I'm crazy because I'll be going through the contract. That one, because I couldn't be prouder of an accomplishment. if we help one person, it's just, just makes me feel great.
Janet, go ahead.
Well, I thought Farah was going to say something. I'm just going to piggyback on what Lisa said. With the Fair Housing Discrimination Advisory, not only is the form impactful, but it has sparked a lot of conversation in the realtor ranks, and theoretically with your clients, because you should be reviewing it with your clients. But the amount of conversation that has happened around that, some of it embracing, some of it, pushing back a little bit, not understanding this whole thing about, buyer love letters, so to speak, what are some good things to do, some good things not to do, but all of the elements that a realtor really needs to be aware of is contained within that document. It's just 2 pages, but it talks about the law. It talks about who the protected classes are. And in California, there's 22 of them, including arbitrary characteristics, which could be absolutely anything. It gives examples of do's and don'ts, and it also gives you a nice resource list of how to report if you feel like you have been discriminated against in your housing choices. And so that conversation that it sparked it's priceless. That's all I can say. So I'm just piggybacking. It's not the be all end all of everything. I am super, super proud of it. But yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up, Lisa. And Farah, I know you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think honestly, we have our perspective of being insiders, and there's things I'm personally feel good about, but I'm curious, as to, what people in our audience think has been, our great accomplishments, like what has really landed on them. I mean, I will say, I think it all falls into the pot of raising consciousness and getting us into a place where we're having conversations where, frankly, when you tried to bring some of these things up before in some of the leadership environments, it could lead to either a tough or maybe a defensive type of conversation, or getting shut down, or even a kind of denial that is an issue, or that's an important issue. And so I think that the process of raising awareness is so important, because these issues are actually impacting people's ability to live, to house themselves, to be safe, to build wealth, to have all kinds of I would say equality. We can't say equality right now because the level field is so skewed with the wealth gaps that have grown and grown, and they continue to grow as we now have even more supply and affordability issues. So I think this is long overdue, as all this consciousness raising and all these discussions we are having in one way, shape, or form, but they're happening, and they're highly important, and it's and I don't think that we kind of thought it all the way through, or who could know what the world was going to look like, or what it was going to be, or the impact of just deciding to continue to talk about it after that advisory. But it is timely, critical, beyond timely, and it's just really important that we do this. But whether it's articles, whether it's the advisory, whether it's the conversations or the books, or all of it, I would love to. I mean, I know that not everyone has spoken, so we can figure out how we want to do this, but I'd love to also hear from our audience one way, shape, or form, because they will know what's kind of really stuck with them. I'm seeing comments in the chat too, by the way.
Yeah, so Lisa posted a note to the chat. If you do want to be part of the conversation beyond just putting something in chat, please raise your hand in the participation box, and we'd love to bring you up, because we'd love to hear your direct input. I see Marianne noted, for me, the education and exposure to the ideas. I'm truly grateful to you all, especially the books. So glad that information is resonating, and it's what you guys want. I think that's one of the things that we want to get a better handle on is what else do you guys want? What else do you need? You know, we're going to continue to bring as many resources that we can, but we're not seeing everything that's out there. And so if you have ideas and resources, you know, please share them with us too.
We have a hand up. Shall I bring Kendrick on?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I don't know how to drive this crazy thing, so hang on a second. Okay. He's coming on as a panelist, so he'll be on camera in a second. There he is. Hey, Kendrick.
Yes, hello, how are you?
Hi,
Hey,
Kendrick.
Hi.
Kendrick.
Hold on, let me get my camera. I just want to show you my face. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Kendrick.
Yeah. So
Our super fan.
got this webcam, so I'm still figuring it out how to use this. So if I'm not looking at you guys, I'm still learning. Yeah,
Your lighting is popping though.
I really want to appreciate you guys, especially Lisa, for introducing me to this group. I really enjoy your conversations and the guest speakers you brought in. And I truly mean that. I mean, Lisa has been supporting me since I've been teaching at the community college since 2014. She brought her team. She brought a lot of people from the Orange County Association of Realtors to help me, you know, discuss real estate and fair housing and ethics to the students. 7 years of supporting me, but since the pandemic, we've been having a hard time kind of connecting and trying to get on Zoom and things like that. But you guys are doing great work, and believe me, the way you guys, especially Leon, thank you for connecting with me as well. And Farah, you guys really put on good articles, information, and something that I could share with my classroom and real estate students that really never thought about the things that you guys are brought up. So I take a lot of your information and share that with the class, because you know now they're realizing it's not just about just passing the exam and then going out there to work. There's a lot of things that are involved. And you know, you're right, during the whole summer there's been interesting conversations on social media, outside of social media. And you know, you guys give me some hope for the real estate industry. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to be real honest with you. I thought I just gave up on a lot of realtors during the summer, and I thought, you know, I warned a lot of my family members and community members, these are the realtors you stay away from, because they're the ones that are not believing in fair housing. They just want to take your money because you're Asian. And their comments are clear and concise, and they're very brave to put that on there. And I'm happy that Lisa sent me an article in November saying that now there's a NAR code of ethics saying, hey, you can't be racist outside of your capacity. So that means on social media, you can't say things like that. And it's been real calm on social media. So you guys are making change. And my last comment I want to say is I hope you guys, when you have time, I would like to bring you guys as a group to my live classroom. And I'm thinking in the 2022, but maybe as a Zoom call for all of you guys. And I'll send out privately the information to Lisa, and then we could connect later offline. But again, I appreciate you guys really. And I really enjoy this, so I thank you. You give me hope as a real estate professional that there's people out there that actually care and that are appropriate and are willing to do the work and to try to be anti-racist. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kendrick. We really appreciate you. I know you are one of our biggest supporters, and you're always at all of our sessions and contributing. So thank you. Thank you for being part of this community and speaking for everybody. I think we'd love to come to your class.
Definitely.
Even if it's on Zoom. So.
And
And we
thank you
also-
for all the kind words.
And also, Kendrick, you know, we see you too as definitely a kindred spirit, you know, also raising awareness on your social media and, you know, speaking out, you know, very, very bravely, you know, as an ally, and, you know, just doing these brave things. Honestly, I think in real estate, we were often told, you know, you want to be kind of neutral. You don't want to talk about anything that could potentially be controversial. And as someone in the real estate industry who, you know, uses their voice to help educate people and to show support for all different communities. I think it's really wonderful to know you and to kind of do this work with you and to kind of see you engaging, you know, in our community and coming to the event. So it's just awesome. So we're glad that we can support each other, and just let us know if, you know, when the class is, and we'll try to make that happen.
Well, I definitely will. And it's funny how you said, you know, be neutral and things like that. You know, I grew up, I'm 43 years old. I may not look it. And I grew up in the 80s, early 80s. And I remember that I was one of 2 Korean kids on the block in Cerritos, if you're familiar with Cerritos along 195th. And it's very interesting that, you know, I would get the comments or the questions like, so do you guys use chopsticks or regular utensils? And growing up in Boy Scouts, the whole, hey, you know, are you sure you want pizza? Do you want anything special for your people? Like maybe some rice, things like that. It's amazing. And I thought, oh, you know, just ignore it. They're ignorant, you know, move on, move on, move on. And that's the way our generation has grown up. Like, you know, prove them wrong with, just ignore the hate, prove them wrong and things like that. But I think not just for this group to motivate me, I think what really happened was my encounter with Proud Boys in Huntington Beach. I didn't want to encounter them. I didn't really want to see them. I was just going out there to visit you know, a family member, and the Proud Boys would not leave me alone, even if I ignore and walk away. So based on that, that's why I've been pretty angry with Proud Boys, and I call them out on everything and identify who they are. And ever since that as well, that's what really also kind of motivate me to say, hey, let's speak out against hate. And what happened at Huntington Beach with all these KKK flyers this past week, you know, it's like California and some parts of Orange County, you need to be careful. If you look like me, if you're Black or Latinx, you're not going to be safe in Huntington Beach. That's why I always tell everybody, you need to go in a group, literally in a group, even during the daytime. I don't trust Huntington Beach. And I feel safe a little bit in Mission Viejo because I know people there, but even this past year, not so much. But you guys have motivated me in terms of reaching out, but also at the same time, the Proud Boys really did make me more forceful in what I'm saying. If they left me alone, to be honest, I probably would have been just neutral or quiet, not say anything and keep my head down. But I just glad I had that experience, because I never spoke up for Black Lives Matter. I never spoke up for Black people in the Black community, even though they've been always supporting the Asian communities all the time, throughout history, during the 60s and civil rights movement. They always were there. The Black community, especially Black women, right? They're very strong and passionate and always supportive. But for me and my community to stay silent, it's no longer, it shouldn't be. And I think I speak for the Korean community, we need to do more and step up more. So I rely on the next generation, but I also need to step up myself. So appreciate the inspiration. I really do, really do.
Means a lot, Kendrick. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inspiring us too. And please do let us know how we can support you in your efforts with raising awareness for your community and those around you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to put you back into the audience, but feel free to raise your hand again.
Okay, no problem. I'll put my mic on mute too. Thank you.
Thanks. So, you know, we've been fortunate that we have seen more and more resources coming out to educate agents about fair housing. So I remember as a broker for a very large company for many years, in March, in anticipation of Fair Housing Month, searching for resources to educate our agents. And we had very minimal resources, even through NAR. I remember reaching out to my local board, to our state board, and to NAR saying, where are the resources for the agents? Sure, you'd have an occasional video, and let's say the video would be about 4 minutes long. And the first 2 minutes were scenario based, which were great. Those were great educational moments. but then it would switch to more of a consumer video, in that if you feel you've been discriminated against, here are your next steps. And so I could only use that in the context for my agents to say, here's a situation, here's what you don't do, and here's what happens if you violate fair housing laws. But it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And so finally, we have these resources. So, you know, we've got Fairhaven. How many of us have completed Fairhaven? Okay, so good. Not all of us. We're getting there. I just did
No,
my.
I did it on my
Susie.
I did it on my mobile app and didn't finish, like the last finish it. And when I went back in, I was kicked out. So I have to go back and do it on my laptop.
I
So
know it's coming. It's coming.
Okay. Well, you
just
know,
timed out.
NAR President Charlie Oppler's challenge ends tomorrow. Just saying, if you haven't done it.
And what's
Fair
the challenge,
housing.
Lori?
It's doing the Fairhaven simulator, and it's watching the implicit bias video that's on their website. All of us that are CAR directors took a different fair housing training, but they have about a 56-minute video. So you need to watch that video, and then you need to complete the At Home with Diversity. And so if you've done that, then you just fill out this online form and get recognized as having completed that challenge. So I encourage all of our audience to do that. I'd love to know from the audience, you know, who's completed it. That would be awesome to see. So what do you guys think about the resources that are out there, and what are you hearing from agents about whether they intend to do it, whether they have done it? Any feedback? Anybody?
You know, I'll start with that one, Lori. You know, I have contact with quite a few agents, and they love to hear the information. I just, in this environment, the way that listings are going, the way that buyers are going, and how busy their lives are right now, it's hard for them to take separated time. Like this takes some effort, right? You can't, it's not just you wake up in the morning and go, okay, I'm going to fit 53 minutes in to watch, you know, an implicit bias training that NAR has. I think it's more intentional than that. But I will say this, when people hear, especially in the brokerage that I'm in, when people have an opportunity to participate for something that the brokerage is doing, they are all ears, and they are very, very much engaged. Susie and I were involved in an issue recently, and I don't want to talk in detail about the issue itself, but we were involved in an issue where the agent was so receptive, completely unaware of her fair housing obligation as it related to her seller, but completely open to feedback that Susie gave, completely open, and just soaked in the information that we gave as a follow-up with that agent. It has been really sort of awe-inspiring, and it does raise hope that the awareness does work, and it does make people take a step back and see that fair housing is just, it's just fair, right? It's just being fair. I'm laughing because it's sort of, you know, it's right there in the
obvious.
title. Right? It's obvious, right?
It should be obvious.
It's just fair. So I'm not hearing a lot of people say, oh, I did Fairhaven, or I'm not hearing a lot of people say, I actually watched, you know, the implicit bias video training. I'm not hearing a lot of people saying I took At Home with Diversity, although I'm seeing Rosanna Garcia say she has her At Home with Diversity since its inception. I took At Home with Diversity last year. In fact, Farah and I think, did the same class with the same instructor. And while the content was good, you know, the instructor level needs to really be brought up a level. And my understanding is that the instructors from this year forward, I mean, they're awesome. And so I am wholeheartedly saying, take At Home with Diversity. It's a day out of your life, and you will learn so many valuable tools and lessons about just being fair in your real estate business. And we just hope that brokers are also engaging with this, and then pushing that information down, and pushing that, lead by example model down into the agent arena. It's super important.
Absolutely. Great points, Janet. So we do have Marianne who has her hand up. Let's bring her up.
And here she comes.
There she is. We're so glad you're with us, Marianne. Go ahead and unmute yourself. We'd love to hear what you'd like to add to the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for bringing me in. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
great.
Awesome. So, what Janet just said is very, very true. I think it needs actually to start with the brokers, because if the brokers either encourage or, make it a part of their office policies, and really educate their agents, and that's where it starts. I feel that, it goes out from the brokers. If the brokers are not engaged, unless there's an individual agent that feels very passionately about it, they may or may not be exposed. And what you were saying in regards, I did take the challenge from Charlie Oppler because I am in leadership. And I shared that information with a lot of people. And I didn't get as much affirmation that people were involved. I did give a lot of links to Fairhaven. People did enjoy that. The At Home with Diversity certification teachers that they had this year, one of them was Matt DeFonis, who is he was the chair with the NAR committee that was, I feel, very instrumental in getting 10.5 passed. So, I think a lot of it depends upon the passion of the person's teaching as well. But I think you are all doing an amazing job. And it has really, really opened my eyes. And I always thought that I was a pretty open-minded person and well-educated and understood about fair housing. And it has created a thirst in me to get more information and to better understand so that I can be a better realtor. And I really thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for those comments. And, you're absolutely right. And what Janet said is correct too. I kind of take for granted sometimes that I'm very involved, go to lots of different meetings, the CAR town hall meetings. So I see you there, Marion, and Janet too. And so, sometimes I forget we're involved. So we're in the know and we're spreading the word, but there's so many more out there who are not involved. And so it's part of our responsibility to spread the word. So Marion, before you go, you mentioned about 10-5. Can you give us a little background and how it's being perceived? Is it working? Is it not? Any thoughts on that?
Well, thank you. I actually am on the Professional Standards Committee for NAR, and as well as being this year's chair of the Professional Standards Forum. So I was very actively involved in the meetings when all of this was being brought forth, and got a lot of calls from people in different parts of the country primarily that had significant issues with 10.5. And I think a lot of it just really had to do with not understanding that this is relating to our industry. This is not a first right amendment issue. This is something that is specific to NAR's Code of Ethics. And as a member of our organization, you cannot turn off your realtor light at a certain period of time. So therefore, if you're showing bias in any way, shape, or form, including hate speech epithets that are directed toward any of the protected parties or classes, that in essence that you are subject to sanction. I think a lot of people just didn't understand. They've done a series, NAR has done a series of breaking down the code, which has been available to all NAR members so that they can get a better understanding of that. But again, it's just like anything else. I think spreading out the education so that people understand that this is more related to being an ethical person and providing fair and equal treatment to everybody. And it has nothing to do with somebody taking away their personal rights of expression.
You're absolutely right. There was so much misinformation when when the word originally got out before the vote was even done. And seeing the presentation at NAR from Matt and the group, and seeing him and others present in the weeks leading up to that NAR meeting and the vote, so many of us changed our understanding and therefore changed our mind. And so I'm really pleased that we were able to get people to understand the real intent and the reality of how this would play out, because there was so much misunderstanding in the beginning, and we absolutely needed this. So, you know, Kendrick mentioned he's seen less on social media, and I have too, but to be fair, I'm not on very often. So I'll have to rely on my other social media friends for more input on that. Does anyone have any other questions or thoughts for Marion?
Yeah, I do, as always. The thing that Matt was always talking about when he was referring to 10-5 was, you know, we're realtors always. The public just sees us as realtors. So no matter what we do, whether we're doing the business of real estate or we're just out in the community, and there's two examples that I'd like to just refer back to. So in the news today, there was an ex-NFL player who shot and killed 5 people and then killed himself. He's no longer in the NFL, but the headline said, ex-NFL player. When a realtor goes to a January 6th rally and gets involved in that rally and is posting all over social media about that, the headline is realtor is involved in an insurrection, and it says realtor, right? And so that's all of us. And the point that Matt was making about you know, what we do in the public, whether it's on our Facebook sites, social media, just out in public, when they learn that you're a realtor, it reflects on all of us, because that's all the public remembers. It was a realtor. They don't remember the person's name. It was a realtor. So it's so important for us to take that lesson and elevate our profession so that we're not involved and lumped in together with people who are not acting honorably.
Excellent input.
And that's so true, Janet. You know, we hear that just as me being involved in my city and being attacked constantly as a realtor. And it's like, wait, I'm doing good. I'm helping. But that image that's before us and that goes on is a reflection of us. And it's so important when we're out there representing. And that's why I really think this work, one day at a time, one person at a time. And they may not even be aware of it. I was looking for a lease, helping a client with a lease, and we're getting in, and they kept asking for a driver's license as part of the application. I was like, fine. So we put it, well, she's from Nigeria, she's Black, she's a doctor. Didn't matter. You know, it was all of a sudden the place was no longer available. And we finally did get an offer on the lease accepted. And the realtor, who is the landlord, was like, I'm so excited that they're Black, because I have an Asian family, a Mexican family, and I needed a Black family. I'm like, you can't say that. It's like, you know, and that was another opportunity for me to educate and explain to them. She's her own office. So it's, you know, it's frustrating, but I looked at these opportunities, Janet, like with last week's incident, as an opportunity to educate and inform, and hopefully they tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend and tell their sellers. And you know, it's a process that we have to do. I think you know, we spoke about the love letters. It's such a part of our industry. but we know better. We know why we can't continue doing that. So I look at these as opportunities to change and inform, and that's with this group and our attendees week after week. We're doing 2 sessions a month at least, and it's great to see new faces, the same faces, confirming what's out there. It's not just the 6 of us; it's everybody, and it really is a great thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Marion. We really appreciate you adding to this wonderful conversation. Thank you for all you're doing and for continuing to look at the national level on ways that we all can do better across the country. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Lori. My pleasure.
Thanks.
And all of you.
Thanks. Well, awesome. So I'd like to throw a question out to the audience, and we'll see if anyone will raise their hand and come and join us. What changes have you seen in your marketplace that either increase awareness or progress? So what's going on out in the field?
I think, Melanie Barker is posting some stuff here. I think she needs to come on.
I know.
Melanie, how about it?
She can't say she's shy.
I know it. She really can't.
Okay.
Okay, so she said, sure, yay.
Okay. Well, we'll bring Melanie up, and then we have Dorinda after Melanie. Okay, so bear with me here. And you have been promoted to panelist. And there she goes. We'd love it if you could come on camera, because the default, you don't show up on Facebook. So thank you.
Hey, Melanie.
I look like hell. I just got done showing property for half a day, so this is awesome.
Hey, this is the glamorous job, right? That's what we look like at the end of the day showing.
So glamorous. Yeah, last week was the break-in I stumbled on one of my properties, which I got to go check on again. But anyway, no, earlier in the conversation, you were talking about just messaging and how we get the conversations started. And so we have a local market area. I'm part of Fresno Association of Realtors, but I serve the rural area of California, rural area just outside Yosemite National Park. And so we have a little mountain market area, if you will. And so today was my opportunity to do kind of an industry update and present. And so it gave me an opportunity to make sure that about the decisions that we've made at NAR and CAR, remind them about the new form. And, it is interesting to me always the changes that our realtor members don't pay attention to. And we've added a lot of forms that are just automatically associated with the RPA. And they just get them signed off and they don't pay attention to what it says. I'm pretty close to thinking I memorized paragraph 8 for the love letters, right? And, it was an opportunity for me to tell the brokers and agents, if you send me an offer with a love letter, it will be rejected and you will send it back to me without the love letter. I won't open it. I won't look at it. I don't want to know anything other than what that offer says, so that there's not an opportunity for me to make a mistake in any way presenting as well. So it's just having conversations and just trying to do what little bit. I feel strongly that those of us that are involved have that obligation to go back and talk to our realtor members that, like Lori said earlier, don't have that connection, if you will. And so, that was today. There wasn't a lot of dialogue around it, but then I don't know, maybe I scared some of our members with my, this is how it is. I don't think any of you can imagine that coming from me, but maybe that's what happened.
Tell us a little bit more about this 13-page reverse love letter from a seller to the buyer.
Yeah, it was such a trip. It was one of the properties we are showing today. And I don't I was shocked. So my business partner is actually the one that set everything up. And because it was new clients, we went out together. And we show in rural areas, so it's just a safety mechanism for us. So I had not seen it until I was in the car with her, and I was just going through it. And it was like all the things they loved about it. There was a picture of the gal in the swimming pool, like cleaning it out. Like it was so bizarre. Here's the trails, and here's all the things you can do. And I mean, I was cracking up. So I haven't had a chance to talk to the agent to understand where the impetus was and the need for the seller to do that. Ultimately, they didn't select it. And by the way, the swimming pool doesn't even exist anymore. It got blown away in a windstorm back in January, and the agent still hadn't taken the photos down, which was super irritating to my business partner, who is, anybody that knows disc, high C. Don't mess with my business partner. I'm just saying. And she also feels very strongly about a lot of this fair housing. And we talk about it with our agents all the time and try to answer questions. And I'm a small brokerage, so it's not like huge impact, you guys. But we very much participate in the conversation. So anyway, that's my 2 cents or 3 cents for the day.
Well, we always appreciate all that you do at CAR and NAR. So thank you for coming up and agreeing to speak. We had to drag you up here, but you always have such great input. So thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
Bye, Mel.
And we'll bring up Dorinda.
Okay, we can do this. We can do this. All right.
Dorinda's a local OC director like Lisa and I.
Oops. Where'd she go?
Yeah, where'd
Let's
she
try
go?
this one more time. Hang on. Getting a little frisky here on Zoom. I don't know what's happening. There she goes.
Hi, Dorinda.
Hi,
There we go.
everybody. Oh, let me fix my thing. Forgive my gym clothes. I'm gonna go roller skating in a few minutes.
Oh,
I'm
how
jealous.
fun.
In about an hour. Some of the things that I've seen in our marketplace are, the first thing that I noticed are that people are talking about this, and they are being very deliberate about fair housing. They're being very deliberate about participating in the new rules, if you will. So I'm seeing a lot refrain from using the love letters. I'm seeing just conversations about those topics. I'm seeing people actually look through the contracts and just kind of being more intentional about accepting an offer and presenting offers. And so a little more answering the phone, you know, that kind of thing going on. So it just seems a little bit friendlier now, and I appreciate that.
Good. That's good to hear.
That is great feedback.
Yeah.
It feels like, you know, sometimes you can feel like, especially on some of these topics, you know, that you're not sure if people are absorbing it. There's a lot of things, you know, realtors are being told they need to do. And sometimes in the past, I would say people have been dismissive. So I do hear sometimes when we talk about these things, especially for people who've been in real estate for a long time and working on fair housing issues, they can be a little pessimistic about whether change is possible. So it's great to hear you say, you know, that people are actually kind of taking the time to kind of like try to make sure they're doing things a certain kind of way. The buyer letters are reducing. We know they're still out there, but that they're reducing, and that the conversations are happening, and that this is being impactful. And so that was my sense, but I'm now in a different place where I have a little bit more of I see the people who are reaching out to CAR in certain kind of ways. So I have a different perspective. Being in the market and experiencing that is a completely different thing. So I think that's amazing.
So I have a different question for you, Dorinda, kind of switching gears. So you also do commercial. And so tell us, you know, the type of commercial you do. And you know, obviously these fair housing rules don't apply to commercial, but are you seeing any type of discrimination in the commercial space that maybe you can let us know about?
You know, I work with developers. I do some international real estate, and I don't do any leasing at all, but I do see that some of the discrimination on the leasing side. I'm trying to think. I do see some of that in some development, depending upon what's being built and where they're building. I noticed.
What do you see?
What I do see is there's still that propensity for going into neighborhoods where someone knows that they're going to be able to, how should I say this? It's kind of like the same thing that we saw in Africa, where people go and take, and they're not giving, they're not putting into the community the resources, but they know that the people who are living there need they need housing, they need shopping, so they'll build those kinds of things there, but it won't be the quality of housing that they'll build in some other areas. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking, in my opinion, rather than really adding some real legitimate value. You can see that it's a business decision to profit. And we saw that with some opportunity zones, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes a ton of sense.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big conversation. I don't know. I know Farah and Janet have had lots of conversations about opportunity zones. Do you want to touch on that now, or is that for another session?
That's a big topic. I think it's in succession because, you know, even I feel like, you know, I had some strong opinions at one point. I still kind of hold those opinions, but they're becoming more nuanced. And I think it's just, but the point is, and so I will say this, and, you know, something I think that we kind of all learned around some of our discussions is that with realtors and our associations and when you're in leadership, we can sometimes get, and now I will, you know, make this disclaimer, I'm now staff, so I'm no longer a realtor, but I know that life well because we were all on the board together, so of CAR, that sometimes you get information and it's packaged, and this is, you know, as a citizen in the United States, you know, you get information that's packaged a certain kind of way, maybe leaving out certain other things, maybe there's an impact that could happen to a community that's not really mentioned or highlighted, or maybe even the lawmaker is unaware, who knows? But, you know, sometimes you just get a little bit of a piece of something. And sometimes the person who's interested in having something come about is not necessarily coming from the community that they're saying they're wanting to serve. And so I do think opportunity zones are much more complicated than, you know, thinking one way or the other way about them. But I think as leaders and as we ponder policy, it's really important for us to kind of start to be able to find out a little more information, start to unpack the impact of what some of these supposedly beneficial things will be on all communities or underserved communities or people who might have less access to wealth or who've been redlined in the past. So that is part of the nuance of opportunity zones. And I think that this would be a great venue for an even bigger conversation around, you know, the pros, cons, what people are doing, even maybe beneficial or things we've seen negative around opportunity zones.
May I share one more thing that was, one of the other things that we saw, which I was totally unaware of, is that in the cannabis space, people of color, particularly men of color, Black men, were not allowed to get to be in the cannabis business, which was completely shocking, you know. And so there's some work to try to change that now. There's a whole group that works just on that, which I didn't even know that. There's a what do you call it, an advocacy group that works on that kind of discrimination in the commercial realm. So that was interesting to find out, because you would think that certainly everybody would have that opportunity once marijuana was, you know, legalized and the whole thing, that everybody would have, anybody who was interested might have the opportunity to have their own cannabis shop. But no, even there was massive discrimination.
So what you're saying, Dorinda, is you can be jailed for it, but you can't like profit from it, right?
That's
Unless it's
exactly,
illegal.
that's exactly what the advocacy group was sharing, how
Yeah.
ridiculous it was. Yeah, for sure.
That's a really, really important point, and it brings up some really complicated, layered discussions. If we talk about that with opportunity zones and other gentrification and then displacement and homelessness, and all of that cannot be uncoupled from fair housing. And there's this thing about providing housing for people who lived in that area initially as these opportunity zones are expanding, or as areas are getting gentrified, or as property values get normalized across the board, right? So just because you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in a predominantly mixed neighborhood, that same 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, in the adjacent neighborhood, same amenities, everything, all things being equal, that, predominantly white neighborhood will have a higher valuation. So even as that sort of gets normalized, and we hope that it does, you now have affordability issues and placement issues or displacement issues. And we have to figure that out in terms of fair housing as well. So it's complicated, and there's no one fix. There's like no one fix for it. But the more we become aware, the more we understand what the legislation is or policies are that are being introduced, and the impact of those, if we can put those two things together, actually there's more than two things, but if we can at least put those two things together, we can actually start to have smarter legislation, smarter policy, smarter land use, smarter development. All of that kind of goes into it. And I'm so glad you're doing that work, Dorinda, on that side, that you're at least bringing that forward. And we need more of that.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any other questions or comments for Dorinda?
Glad you're here.
We are.
Yeah, I'm glad to be
Nice
here.
to
Thank
see
you
you.
guys for doing this. This is amazing what you're doing, and I'm glad to be a guest and part of what you're doing, just like everybody else who joins these conversations with you guys. When you put these meetings together, I try not to ever miss one, because they're so informative and so enlightening, and I love it. I love what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Dorinda, thank you. I
That's
noticed that
awesome.
you are always a big supporter too. So thank you for that. We really
Oh, you're
appreciate
so
it.
welcome.
We'll definitely have to add opportunity zones to the list of topics, and perhaps invite you to join us that day
Okay,
as a
yeah,
panelist.
yeah.
Great.
And there will be a survey at the end of this event for anybody who wants to get more involved. If you would like to be on a panel, if you would like certain topics to be discussed, if you want to moderate a book club, if you have ideas, if there's something that you think that we should be doing, if you want to get on our advisory and help us come up with ideas, fill out the survey at the end. Please fill out the survey at the end, and let us know how, as a group, we can better serve our community here, and how we can get more of our members involved. And I'm sorry, my dog's barking.
Excellent. Thanks, Dorinda.
Thank you.
All right, so we haven't heard from Leon in a while. I'm going to throw this question to him, and then to the audience as well, and if anyone wants to come forward with that. So what do you think this year's Fair Housing Month, how do you think this year's Fair Housing Month will be different than in years past?
I know for me, I'm probably one of the ones that's newest in real estate. For me, it's only been about 5 years, almost 6.
You're not
But
new anymore.
I know, yeah, true.
You've done one
But,
renewal, you're not new anymore.
Very true. I think this year is different just because, in the last year to 13 months, we put more emphasis on fair housing. When 50 years came around in 2018, nobody really made a big of a deal, only on an individual basis, on how much things have not changed. And I think that, having allies in the field like Matt and Marion and all of these great realtors, ourselves included, I think that now that conversation is more public and it's willing to be made and had, and improvements are, willing to be done. And, as far as beforehand, I'm not saying that there weren't, things that are trying to be done. It's just that it wasn't as public and felt to be necessary as now. So I think that it's just people are more willing to have that conversation and put the work in. When before it was just, okay, let's leave that to the organization that's feeling left out or being felt like they're behind. Instead, now everyone's coming to the forefront with it.
It's an important point that you made about I don't want to call it celebration, but the acknowledgement of the progress that's made, but the lack of acknowledgement of the progress that still needs to be made. That was an important point. So how about you, Lisa? Same question.
Repeat the question, please. I was playing technician over here.
Okay. How do you think this year's Fair Housing Month will be different than years past?
I think the awareness of fair housing has taken on new importance with some of the unfortunate things that have happened within this year, that as someone who identifies as white, we could all sit back for previous years and say, oh, well, these things aren't affecting me. Guess what? They're affecting you. They should be affecting you.
And they're affecting our friends.
They're affecting our friends.
Our community.
They're affecting other human beings. That, everybody needs a home. Everybody needs a place where they can come home, be safe, raise a family if they wish, and to learn as much as we've learned. Hopefully more people are learning as, like we are, that there's a history to this industry that is horrible. It's a horrible, horrible history. And you have to learn that history before you can make things better. You have to understand what diversity is, what equity is. And when, a year ago, if you would have asked me what equity is, it's like, oh yeah, it's how much, money your house is worth between, what the value and then your loan balance. I wouldn't be understanding equity, and learning so much, and learning so much from everybody in this group. The time that you guys spent with me and educated me just changed everything. And then to top it off, you read the book Cast, boom, then you get it. You get it. And the more that we can let people know that you need to understand equity, you need to understand our history, and then you can support fair housing. You can really get on that. I know why this needs to take place. I know why this needs to be done. And that, that's how we're going to change. That's the only way how we're going to change. But I think there's enough people now seeing the importance of it, seeing, things play out in real life, things that they may not have, they might have changed the channel for. Now they're going to stick to that channel. They're going to see what's happening. They're going to watch it and say, I don't want that happening to my friends. I don't want that happening to family members. I don't want that happening to anybody, and we need to get everybody to we don't want this happening to anybody level. And will we ever get there? Unfortunately, no. But if each of us can reach out to the people in our community and say, hey, you know what? There's this really good program that, NAR has. It's called Fair Haven, co-workers and office managers. We need the people, the people here are our disciples. We need the disciples to go out and spread the word, because we can preach to ourselves all day long, but we need everybody to keep spreading this. And hopefully that's what's going to happen this year. Our local association's doing a full week of fair housing. I don't think we've ever done that in the past.
We haven't. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I'll talk about it a little bit because some of us in this conversation are going to be part of that. And we are doing a full week, kicking off with Lori is association president of Orange County Realtors. We're Orange County. We've heard about Huntington Beach here. We have issues in Orange County. So hopefully we can get more of our Orange County agents to listen and learn. The first thing is take or act now on fair housing updates from NAR. That's going to be Brian Green from NAR and Matt DeFanis. We've heard his name mentioned many times, and we were very fortunate to have him as a guest on our first deliberate discussion. That's going to be happening on Monday, the 19th of April. Then they're going to be doing the next day a Code of Ethics Article 10.5 webinar. They're going to be having professional standards chairs from Orange County Realtors, California Association of Realtors, and National Association of Realtors talking about Article 10.5. Lee Brown will be doing No Longer Just a Realtor on the 21st. And she's going to provide a list of what a realtor actually does and how to tell that story in your marketing. On the 22nd, we're going to be addressing our own implicit bias, the impact of bias and microaggressions. And that's going to be with, and I'm going to massacre his name, Farah, help me, Rudhir Krishdel, who Farah brought to CAR for one of the most amazing events. If you guys have not taken implicit bias, we have some space. I believe we have space available still to register through Orange County Realtors. Take it, please take it. It is so good. It's so good. So that's happening on the 22nd. And then they're going to wrap up the week with Farah Wilder. And Farah is going to be talking about buyer love letters, because obviously we see that this is an ongoing problem, and also some fair housing updates, and that'll be moderated by me. So we've got some good things going on. We will put the link in the chat on both, so you guys can come, take advantage of the tools that our association's offering. And if there's any other associations out there that are offering anything, I know we got Rich Discoli is here, so maybe he might want to pop up and share anything that they're doing down there. But we would love to have you. You're welcome here with us, and any education that we can help with, we would love to do.
Great. I just posted the link to the landing page of the Fair Housing Week from Orange County Realtors. It is open to anyone from any association. So just click other when it asks for your association if you're not part of Orange County Realtors, Newport, or Laguna Beach Association of Realtors. And we'd love to see all of our friends there. So Susie, we haven't heard from you in a little bit too. Do you want to answer that question, or shall I throw a different question at you?
Well, I can touch on this and then you can throw another question on.
Or do you want to talk about some of your favorite resources?
Well, you guys are my favorite resource. I mean, you guys give me so much information. I mean, my Amazon list is all of our books from the past year. Yeah, one thing I just wanted to kind of comment on. I'm hoping that that'll do better. I used to always say, like, I'm not racist. I see everyone. We're all the same. I don't see color. And something that's really happened in being warned is, like, you need to acknowledge we're not all treated the same. And that's what I'm really hoping for in this, that this will be different, that we realize we aren't all treated the same. We're not all, all of our experiences are different. And I may hold, like, this is truly how I feel, but that's not how it's out there. It's not how it's felt. That's not reality. To raise my kids a certain way and to think that you're doing right. And I think that's the biggest part, the biggest awareness through this. And I really hope through the Fair Housing Month that is put out there. You may have done your practice a certain way, but we have to realize we have to change how we've been doing business. And I don't think, and I think this group and those that are involved aren't afraid to speak up and share. The conversation I had last week was, she's like, okay, can we take off our realtor hats and be best friends? What am I doing wrong? And it was really great to have those. I mean, I'm not here, I don't want to go into any lawsuits or tie up in litigation. I want to make our industry better. I want to make my colleagues better. I want us not to be used as that we're just chasing the dollar, but that who we are, not just this group and those that are attend our meets, but really changing who we are. And if you're not, if you are after the money, then make it to where they it's not just the cost of doing business for a penalty, that the penalty is more than just financial. We have to change our industry. Sorry, the sun is coming in and really beating on me right now. I'm trying to like close the curtain and it's getting stuck. So that's where I'm very hopeful that Fair Housing Month is going to be different. And even as you guys, as OCR is doing, you're doing a week, you're and making a difference in doing more. So
Great, thank you.
Was that enough, or did
That's
you?
enough. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Housing Month, by the way.
What's that?
Can I talk about Fair Housing Month?
Yeah, sure.
And I also just want to say that I think what OC Realtors is doing is just absolutely amazing, and like really setting a great example for, you know, our entire state, and actually, you know, our entire industry, to really just kind of it's a big topic, and I think that you can talk about a lot of different aspects of fair housing, and those things are all very important. And so I love that you're doing that. And I think I just want to say, like, kudos to all the associations that are doing fair housing things from this perspective. Again, you know, kind of the outside of one market, looking at a lot of different markets. There's a lot of associations that are doing Fair Housing Month things, making Fair Housing Month statements. And again, you know, the kinds of things that, and it shouldn't be political, fair housing shouldn't be political, you know, but, you know, certain statements around fair housing have been seen as political. So people are making these statements, or maybe it's not political, but it's like, okay, if we put this out here, we know we might be inviting a conversation. And so being courageous enough to engage in the conversation, even when maybe people are not so sure if they want to talk about fair housing right now. So I think it's really courageous and wonderful that OC being, you know, a shining example of this, but so many associations are taking the lead, because I will tell you, there's a lot of visits on my calendar for this month around Fair Housing Month, and it just warms my heart that people even want to engage in the conversation about it, and that there are a lot of people who are gaining expertise or have this expertise, that not just myself or, you know, the folks, and Rudier is a great implicit bias trainer as well, but there are a lot of people out here who've been talking about these things, who are getting the opportunity to really kind of share their insights and wisdom and resources. And I'll post some things that CAR is doing in the chat. We always have our Fair Housing and Diversity Forum, which is you know, our business meet happens in conjunction with our business meetings. We are having our business meetings during Fair Housing Month. So it's kind of a nice conjunction of our business meetings and the ability to really talk about fair housing, which we've been doing. But we're going to have a forum that talks about creative home ownership and housing development that is inclusive of communities that are rising in value. And the fabulous John Wong, who is one of the founders of ARIA, is going to be moderating. We've got Susie Dunkel Soto on the panel. So she's, you know, she's here, but, you know, one thing that Susie might not have said, you know, is that she's very involved in her local government planning, zoning, you know, understands how opportunity zones, trying to make sure that there's affordable housing and housing for everyone in her community. And so we have folks who are doing that kind of work. And in California, with how expensive everything is, it's really critical that we try to understand these things. We also have a number of events for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month coming up. And one of them is a conversation with Norman Mineta, who has done many things. You know, he's been, you know, in presidential administrations. He also was the mayor of San Jose. And Alan Okamoto is going to introduce that discussion with President Dave Walsh. And we also have Ledge Day, which Ledge Day is a lot of things. It's realtors converging on Sacramento, and we're doing that virtually. I'm going to put this in the chat, but we are also having a fair housing video that is coming with that we're putting together with real stories Stories are very powerful. Stories can get us beyond the statistics, which doesn't always change, you know, how people behave, or doesn't always inspire people to get passionate about fair housing. But the stories, when you see a video of someone who talks about having their house appraised for $500,000 less than what it's actually worth, or someone who was able to achieve home ownership with a down payment assistance program, it's powerful. And Janet will be moderating that. So anyhow, I know I can talk long, and I will stop for now, but I'm going to post some events that are coming up in the chat, so people have an opportunity to go to those.
Awesome.
You know, and I don't know if anybody is on our viewing audience, at least at the moment, from the San Diego Association of Realtors. SDAR is doing some things this month too. I participated in another video series that they're doing, and I'm sure they're doing other things as well, but I don't want to leave out anybody that I'm aware of in addition to what is happening at CAR. So some really good stuff. Plus, housing conferences are going on this month for fair housing. There's all kinds of things for people to get involved in to increase their learning. And there are some great national speakers out there that have been working in this space for so long. And one of those people that I'm super impressed with is, well, Lori Benner, who's part of our community as well, but also her boss, Lisa Rice, with the National Fair Housing Alliance. And there's a ton of them, and it's so good. The information is so impactful and empowering. It's great.
It's fantastic. So as you can see, you know, we posted in the chat, if you have a local association event that's coming up that we can help promote for you, that we can attend, that we can support in any way, please, you know, pop that into the chat and even include it in the Facebook page. So we're coming up on our time here. So I want to end with this question. And if anyone from the audience wants to speak, now's your chance. Raise your hand. We'd love to have you join us for a quick comment. But I'm going to ask this question, and I would like Farah, as our Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, to actually respond last. And so the question is, how can we keep the focus on the efforts to increase equity and ensure fair housing opportunities for all? So how can we keep the focus on this? So let's start with Lisa.
Education, education, education. You know, we also mentioned like an aha moment, and I am going to go back to the book Cast. I think that especially in neighborhoods which you would not call diverse, they're diverse, but not in the what you think about diverse, you know. And I will say Orange County is one of them. You know, you need to read that book. You need all your friends to read that book. You need your family to read that book. You need your coworkers to read that book, because it will frame your outlook completely different. And changing the lens in which you view others is the first step. And then once you are looking at things different, that's when you can go about and make the change and have the talks. You know, you gotta read, you gotta listen, go to as many things that you can find, you know, check with our group's Facebook page. Also too, I'm a little disappointed she signed off already, but Michelle Walker from Real Talk Racism and Real Estate was on, and I wanted her to come up and mention what their group is doing. They're more diversity minded. They're trying to spread the word about different things other than our, we have overlap, but you know, it's kind of like, I like to say that they're almost kind of like a sister group. And, you know, they have some conversations that are pretty darn uncomfortable on Clubhouse every Monday at 5:30. But, you know, this is how you learn. You've got to get yourself uncomfortable. It's going to make you feel like, oh my God, what kind of person have I been? But you know what? You need to know what kind of person you have been so you can become a better person and help change things.
Excellent. Leon, what are your thoughts on it?
For me, I think it's really like Lisa said, educate yourself, but you also have to be willing to put yourself out there and be willing to do whatever it takes. You know, it's a hard conversation. It's not going to be easy, but we just have to be there and we just have to be willing to do it. I know for me, it's hard. I'm working on it every day, trying to be a better ally. You know, I know for me, I'm working on my pronouns. That's something I'm working on myself personally for growth. But we just have to be willing to do it and, you know, want to grow and want to make sure that we strive to make things better every day.
Business marriage. Okay, so.
Thanks, Leon. Susie, how about you?
I'm going to go with Lisa on the educate, 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 and with that, communicate, communicate, communicate. And I think there's so much, it's overwhelming, but just start, take a start, read a book, watch a video, read the form. I mean, just take one step and have a colleague just be informed and take that opportunity. You know, as Melanie said in her thing, do not, you know, in the comments, do not submit love letter or your offer will not be forwarded to you. Submit it correctly. You know, we have to, when submitting offers, I will, going forward, explain as to why we are not including the love letter. And I will highlight paragraph 8. But I think it's a point of just communicating and educating is so huge. And it's one with our industry, but like as Lisa said, also your family, your friends. I went through Cass, I read it 1.5 times. It's a hard read. It's not just real estate related, it's life related, history. There's so much in there. You know, when I was planning commission on Hamburg, reading Color of Law, you know, as we're trying to go forward on other, you know, looking at other housing projects and developments. I'm not on planning anymore, but it's involved in other areas. But it really is, that's a great book too, as a realtor. But I think just read something. And in your groups, your associations, start a book club. It's really easy. Just even if you're starting with 5, because some of the conversations can be pretty heavy with the bigger group, but just start the conversations.
Great feedback. Janet, how about you?
I think everything that everyone has said so far has been pretty awesome about what you can do. You know, I want to say that we ought to give ourselves a little bit of grace. We all come at this from different points, different lenses when we started. Some further along than others. So when you're engaging with someone who, you know, because you're further along in your understanding and your engagement with this subject and the many subjects that are housed within fair housing, and you're talking to someone who isn't as far along as you, give them some grace. Get your talking points together for what you know right now. What do I know right now that I can actually talk about? And, you know, I don't want to use the word defend, but promote, right? So what do I know that I can promote? And how can I weave those talking points into people who are not as far along as I am? Then I also have to be in the other position when I'm talking to people who are further along in the process than I am. It's the old adage, as a salesperson, you know this, we are all realtors or have been in sales. And if you're not in sales, you're in sales anyway, because you're always selling something. You're selling something to your husband, you're selling something to your kids, you're selling something to somebody. But in order to sell something, you have to listen first, understand what the need is before you actually talk and give out the solution for what it is that is going to help solve that problem. So no matter what you're doing, no matter what place you're in, listen first, engage your brain, and then respond and try to educate from where you are before you start judging and before you start putting other people down. It's so important, and it brings more people along, right? Just brings more people along. The last thing I want to say to this, I know because Farrah's going to have the last word here, is that I want us all to be very cognizant of the fact that we're all so willing to reap the benefits of the past. We're so willing to do that. We're not willing so much to take on the consequences of the past, but we have to be willing to take on the consequences of the past if we're willing to reap the benefits of the past. Fair housing, equality, discrimination, all of that falls into that, and we have to be able to accept the consequences. I'm a realtor. NAR did some horrendous things to the public. I'm a realtor. CAR did some horrendous things to the public. I'm still a realtor. I inherited everything good about being a realtor, and I inherited everything bad about being a realtor. So now it's up to me to make sure that I can actually further this profession and bring others along. And so with that, I'm going to shut my mouth and let Farah go.
Excellent. That was just beautiful, Janet. And Farah. please-
Everyone had, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but having been a realtor, you're still licensed, but you are now an employee of CAR in a big job, but you have a big platform to be able to speak to so many people. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I just want to give everyone massive credit because I agree with all of you. And I think everything that everyone said is great advice. So I was kind of like, okay, Lisa covered that one, Janet. So, and I think that what we do know is that there's so many things, and I remember this. My attention was divided as a realtor. I wasn't reading books to the level that I'm reading them now because I literally did not have time, and it's really $1 Million Listing, Selling Sunset, all great, interesting shows, do not show what realtors do. So, and I think, and there's reasons for this, we want people to call, I should say we, because I cannot practice anymore, but you want people to call you and not think that they're putting yet another thing on your plate. And also there's all these other things going on that realtors do that maybe people don't think make for such great TV, but, we know that we only have so much time, to capture folks' attention, and we appreciate that people are spending so much time on the topic of fair housing, given all of the other challenges. And so, what I try to do is keep it succinct and really keep it relevant. So yes, as realtors, we're used to having answers or knowing where to find them, when we need them. And the difficult thing about fair housing is that it's so layered and tangled. It's kind of like our zoning supply affordability challenges in California, but maybe even more so obscured and difficult to understand. And so what Janet said about listening is really important, because it's not like you can listen to one thing or read one book and really understand it. It's kind of going to be a process. As you start to get into it, it gets even more complicated. And so this is a movement because we have spent 50 years with the Fair Housing Act, and we have the exact same, if that, a wider gap. And so part of this effort is that it's going to need to be sustained. And so even given all of the other things that are flying at realtors, challenges, the market, it's something that needs to stay on the forefront of our radar. And so the way that we can kind of do that is to continue having these discussions. And I don't know, people might go, okay, I heard about implicit bias, about zoning, whatever. We know that, but the issue is that not everyone is there. And we're going to also have to build capacity around having conversations about race and politics where we've not been doing that. So the thing to do is to really, what I love about an implicit bias trainer like Rudier is that, we're talking about difficult, or for some people, topics, and we're doing that in a sensitive way that actually feels cathartic. And so, what we need to do is, take a deep breath. And when you see something that you don't think is the right thing to do, and I think people are really doing this around buyer letters, is to speak up, say something. Start to use your voice, on behalf of these issues. Post on social media, talk about your identity. I find that I'm talking about my identity to show that this is an inclusive space. I talk about my identity as a member of the LGBTQ community, that people. I talk about issues surrounding the Black community. We talk about issues of being women. And sometimes we want people to just accept us as the competent, amazing human that we are, and that revealing our identities will in some way take away from them seeing our competence, or will take away from them engaging with us as realtors. But we literally have issues that are life and death for people. Housing is a life and death issue for people. So it's really important, if you care about these things, to, engage in the conversations, speak up, educate folks sensitively, try your best to engage in sensitive conversations. If someone is saying something that you think is not quite right, talk about it from a place of respect and love, because we want to get to a further place. We don't need to win the argument. What we need to do is to be able to engage in the conversation in a sustained way and keep people engaged in it, not scare people away, and further our industry that we all really care about, and we see the benefits of homeownership. It's benefited all of us, and so we want to make it better together. And so I think I can leave it at that. Everyone else said all of these other amazing things. And, I'm just grateful that we're doing this and that we're actually continuing to learn together. It's just amazing and an honor to do this with everyone.
So well said, Farah. Thank you. Thank you for that and for your work with CAR. Well, guys, to our audience, thank you for sticking around a couple minutes over. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. My heart is really full right now, and I love this community. I love my friends. I love this community, and thank you all. Thank you all. Thanks.
Don't forget to join us too for book club. We've got Levittown coming up, and I think one of our moderators is on our group here today. Rich Discoli is going to help us moderate that book. What's our date? On the 22nd of April?
Yeah, we're going to
22nd of April. I know we're going to be promoting it, but get the book. Oh my God, that book is awesome. I finished it. There are so many life lessons in there and some things that are going on still today. And it's an amazing read. And I hope that we can start posting some little snippets about it. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be asking for the people that have been reading the book, who are currently reading it or have finished it, just little tidbits. Where are you, in the book? And, just so we can kind of build a little excitement, because I'll tell you, that book is something else. Parts of it are like, oh, this is still happening. This is horrible. And you think we would have learned.
And scary. Yeah.
Scary. Yeah. It's crazy. So, yeah. Join us.
I got it on Audible for 1 credit. So if anyone has credits, then
yeah, if the book's a little too expensive, the Audible price is right. 1 credit.
Yep.
All right, friends. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.